Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Brad Burkholder. He's the author of Where the Spirit Led, My Improbable Journey into the Coming Age and What I Learned. This is part of the 6 books Paranormal Perspectives series. We've had a couple guests now, I think, on from, our friend Gavin Lee Davies from there. Has brought us people that have done these wonderful books called The Paranormal Perspective, and he's trying to get different authors with their experiences. You know, it's not just anybody trying to sell something. No problem with that. People have different information they want to share in a book, but more just about what somebody has experienced and learned, the paranormal perspective on that. Brad Burkholder, that's our guest tonight. Where the Spirit Led. We'll be talking about that book and taking your phone calls later in the show. And of course, since we've been gone, lots of weirdness, total weirdness, and a big I told you so. I'll just get that out of the way at the beginning of the story. All that and so much more for the World Wide Web of Weird. A lot to get to. We'll announce next Sunday won't be a show. I know I've been missing some shows. Next Sunday, a legitimate excuse is jet lag. Literally jet lag. Tuesday, I got to fly out to Seattle. I'm going to be doing a TV show thing. Nothing fancy or big. I'm going to talk about my shadow person experience. Thanks to Josh Turner for Paranormal Roundtable for hooking me up with that. So thank you to Josh. So I'll be doing that. I'll be out, and I'll probably have jet lag, and I got to work as soon as I get back, pretty much. So I am going to take a break. I apologize. But we got to have a great show tonight. Brad Burkholder is our guest. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Brad Burkholder, will be joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird, after our first commercial break. Joining me, as always, though, is my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing good, thank you.
Glad to have you here. I wish, people are like, well, go drive down and visit Jamie down in California. I'm, literally flying in and, getting to the hotel, sleeping that night, getting up in the morning, filming, and maybe, hopefully, possibly flying out that afternoon.
That's a long drive, though.
Yeah, it is. It would be a long drive. That'd be the other thing.
Day.
I'm not going to barely be in Seattle, most likely, unless filming doesn't go right. Well, let's not say that. Let's hope it goes right. All right, but like I said, we got a lot of weird.
Great, you got this.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been this will be the farthest I've ever been out west, and I've never been to Seattle or, Washington or anywhere near there. So it'll be fun.
I'm glad you get to see it.
And from St. Augustine, Florida, we got Rob Archery himself. How you doing, right, Rob?
Pretty good, I think.
You're here? You're here?
Barely, yeah.
Barely? All right, well, oh no. Let's not have those. No technical difficulties tonight, hopefully. We got a good guest, and like I said, we will be gone for a week after this. Next Sunday we won't have a show. I apologize. I know I'm gonna be just by the end of the weekend totally wore out from working and traveling. So, all right, guys, we got a lot of weird to get to. Let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight in the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought we'd start off with this. Yeah, I'm gonna get into it. I'm in a big "I told you so" moment, and we're just gonna get out of the way so we can get into the weird paranormal goodness that follows afterwards. Because this isn't paranormal, but I have covered it over the years. And what have I said about the Jeffrey Epstein case? What did I tell everyone on the show for the last several years? If you've been listening, is that they would release nothing, deny all, and no one would go to prison. Where are we now? For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio network, we are a webcast streaming out live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. But if you want to listen, I will narrate as best as possible. It's not like scrolling down to get Rob's screen share. Why is it not scrolling down? It's like there, but I can't like click on it. Does it let you, Jamie, or you have access? It's not like let me click on it. On Rob's screen share. Let me get rid of mine then. I'll remove mine. Oh,
It says remove, not add to screen or stage.
Here, I'll get rid of mine. I can put this back up later. And go ahead and put it back up, Rob.
It says remove.
All right, he's putting it back up. There we go.
Oh.
Yeah. I had no hopes in this. None at all. Like I said, it didn't matter who was elected. Didn't matter who got into office. Very powerful people. We're going to make sure none of this would ever come out. I'm not going to read an article. I'm not going to say anything. It's just, this is how it rolls. History has shown us. Look up the Franklin scandal. Look up Michael Quino, former head of the Satanic Church, or second in charge under Anton LaVey, and a colonel and ran a daycare. I'm not going to say any more from that. You can take a guess, but yeah, our government cleaned all that up. I don't know why people are so shocked by this. I'm not at all. I know this isn't paranormal. I'm not going to spend any more time on it. But we have talked over it. It's come up in topics with guests and on shows, and I brought it up before. And I hate politics. You get political. I don't want to talk about it. I don't care. But I do care about children. And I do care about victims. And I won't forget. I will never let go. I hope you don't either. I hope we keep holding everybody as much of accountable. Don't hold any political leanings to any party, any side. Any one person will not save us. It has to be a movement. It has to be all of us. It has to be all of us saying, screw you. I don't care who the frick you are. We do care. We want to know. And we want justice. And we want to see people go to jail.
Credibility of disclosure.
Mm-hmm. But we'll move on. And a big mic roll or something. All right, moving on. All right, let's get on some more big cat stuff. This time not in England. Not in England. We're talking upper state New York. Upstate New York City is buzzing about a mysterious big cat that was filmed and possibly, I don't know if you got that one up next, but there should be a video. Captured by Rochester resident Stephanie Baez doorbell camera earlier Wednesday morning. Astonished by the sheer size of the feline and its unusually long tail, she promptly posted the video on social media where it is spread like wildfire among the city residents. Short order of furor surrounding the big cat footage caught the attention of... it's giving you trouble, isn't it?
Yep.
So if not, let me know. I should be able to get it to work on my end.
Nothing is working here tonight. Nothing.
There it is. That's it. Seemingly boasting the possibility of a big cat roaming around Rochester was resident Curtis Jones, who told local TV station that he encountered the creature out on the prowl. This is why I had to do this article. I know it's not paranormal, but wee hours of the Wednesday morning, after I see the people run, I just see something big. I'm gonna let him put it in his own words. Go ahead and play this. Go ahead. I know it's a news cast. I'm gonna take my chance. It's off the website.
It's sounding more like a Bigfoot sighting. That's because officials can't really confirm it was actually roaming around. The elusive cat was reportedly spotted in Rochester on Wednesday, sort of sauntering down a street. Police say social media video appears to show what is likely a mountain lion, and several people did call about it. It even led to a shelter-in-place order, but that was lifted when they couldn't verify the whereabouts of the lurking lion. Still, neighbors are feeling a tad nervous.
I just see something big just walking, just right over there, right by the bush. It went right over there. I swear, I promise you, it went right over there. And it said, "Rawr!" And I just kept walking. I seen it, seen me, see it. So in my head, I'm like, "Man, I gotta go. I'm out."
Okay, that soundbite is all.
So in my head, I'm like, "Nah, I seen me, see it." So in my head, I'm like, "Nah, I gotta go walk. I seen it, seen me."
See
In my head, I'm like, "I gotta go, man. I'm out."
I was trying to get to the
Get to the ride. No, that's what I thought you were doing. I love that guy, man. That is a great eyewitness. That's just great eyewitness.
That's a real reaction right there.
Ooh, it's like the guy that says, "Those are aliens."
It said, "Rawr!" And I just kept walking. It said, "Rawr!" And I just kept walking.
But in all seriousness, man, that looks like a big giant mountain lion.
Yeah.
In the suburbs, man.
You don't want to see that. Whatever it
No.
is, like you're thinking about your.
No,
pets,
I'd be like,
kids.
my reaction would be, get out of there. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
what?
if any pets you got in that area, be careful. Oh my God, that's a big cat.
And they growl. I had one up at where I live.
They didn't find anything though. They looked, they searched for this thing, and
they hide
yeah, they did not find him.
right in front
But
of
obviously, this wasn't like a domestic cat. This is a big cat. An even bigger cat, though. On to the next one, Article 3. Because you can be anything now, including a cat, if you want to. Weird man dressed as a cat terrorizes residents in Merseyside, England. So here in America, we got real big cats. In England, they just, they have this whole cat thing, but this is different. This is a guy in a cat suit. I'm not joking. Dressed in full black cat suit and with a pinchette for dancing, meowing, and growling at random members of the public, the anthropomorphic cat has freaked out quite a few people. One local, Abby Gilbert, reported the encounter them while out walking her dog. Anyone know who the freak in the cat mask and morph suit is at the coastal park near Harvester? She wrote on Facebook. Was walking my dog tonight and heard a man making cat noises, shown a torch. He was waving his arms, as flashlight for us Americans, waving his arms at me before crawling up the hill. Never been so scared. I would be too. People are crazy, man. It was a similar story from another dog walker in the same. He's going after dog walkers. Real smart. This is going to end badly for him. In the same area, who first became aware of the cat man when she heard growling and turned to see him crawling toward her on all fours. Again, I know this story is not paranormal. Sorry. I didn't feel scared, really. He was just waving his arms and making panther noises. I felt more confused than scared. Merseyside Police and Crime Commissioner Emily I almost said Squirrel. Spurl. It was great. Has since appealed to members of the public to report the strange man to police should they happen to encounter him. Just wait till you run across the guy with a pit bull.
Because he's turtling on the ground.
Yeah, just try that. It's all probably little. I say, they got a little dog. I'm gonna go do my meow dance. Just wait till the other person walks up with a big pit bull.
Like the Tidy Cats commercial.
Well, people are weird, man. People are crazy.
People are losing it.
He's gonna get either maced, tased, or eaten by a dog, or both. All right. Well, that's all going on. Here we're getting some more weirdness. Here we go. Here's something on the lines of paranormal. We got our newest crop circle. Alien spider crop formation found in England. So you got men dressed around as cats. You got these big spider crop circles. British man filming around an ancient monument with his drone taken aback when a UAV when the UAV cruised over a field featuring a sizable crop formation depicting a spider. According to local media report, the design was discovered on Thursday morning in the country of Dorset by photographer Thorlak Howlett. I spotted it flying over the Gurney Abbas giant and surrounding area, he explained. I probably butchered that. I don't know what that is. He explained, marveling, this is an interesting one, very big, an alien spider maybe. To that end, as seen in Howlett's video, I just got a picture of it. The abdomen of the spider features what appears to be a pair of eyes and a mouth, giving it an otherworldly appearance. While some find the formation fantastic, the owner of the field apparently did not. In a social media post on Thursday afternoon, Dorset Police Rural Crime Team made note of the newly discovered design and asked the public for any information concerning the creation of the enormous arachnid. The act of criminal damage has a significant financial impact on the farmer, explained Constable Kate Schofield in the call to action. Yeah, that's what usually happens with these crops. These aliens, man, you're costing these farmers tons of money when you do this. That's their money you just flattened. Or two old men with flatboards that are still doing it to this day, even though they're dead.
With the strings and the flatboards.
I don't know. What's up with the spider? If this is a message from aliens, why the spider? What do you think? I don't know. The fans of Spider-Man, they want another Tom Holland Spider-Man 3? I don't know.
They're going to be using spider venom.
It's pretty impressive
like
art, no matter what.
It really is.
Right. It is. It is. I mean, and to do it and have no idea, now you have drones and stuff that you can have flying above probably to help you out, map it out better or stuff like that. But then again, and here's this guy who had as a drone and just happens to capture it. That'd be my first suspect. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know. Or it's aliens. I don't know. I believe it we have had no definitive proof on either. I don't know. I've never seen a crop circle personally, so I'd make no judgments.
Is there ever radiation detected around the older crop circles when people would go check stuff out?
Importantly, the stuff I read, there has been, and there's been traces of magnetic, EMF too. That was just a different radiation, but no,
if they but bother to check it for the hell of it.
I don't know. Oh yeah, they do. They test the soil. They test the soil. They've looked at the crops. There's been a lot of weird anomalous things found in crop circles, but there's also been people that have faked it. So
still to this day, are they?
Yeah, I know. Are they sending us message? I've always been who has anybody cataloged all these and tried to find all the ones they think are pretty legit, can't explain how the crop circle got there, and try to run them through some AI translation machine. What are the aliens telling us? AI? They're telling you that if you use AI, you will destroy the world.
You know what? I guarantee there's a database somewhere of these images. Whether they put it through AI or not, I don't know. That would not be a bad idea.
They got a database. They got the AI. That's where everything's at AI. It's going to be
It wouldn't be a bad idea to run it through and just be like, well, what do you think? What do you think?
Somebody probably's done it. Be interesting. All right, moving on. More to poor farmers in this next one. We got Chupacabra. Some Tim Binnell again. Slew of slain farmed animals stirs Chupacabra concerns in Mexico.
Oh.
Mysterious slaying of slew of farm animals in Mexico has raised the specter of infamous Chupacabra, which some believe may have been behind the grisly attacks. According to local media report, the unsettling incident came to light last Thursday morning when a family in I can't even say that. It's some town in Mexico woke up to find their 20 of their sheep and chickens. It's 5 words. 20 of their sheep and chickens were killed by an unknown predator overnight. The discovery was particularly unnerving due to the weird way in which the unfortunate animals met their demise. Puzzling the family was their sheep and chickens were kept in an area surrounded by a tall fence that would have required the killer to fly or even leap to the location to pull off the grisly feat. Additionally, the predator was seemingly interested in the animal's blood beyond anything else, as they were merely killed with monstrous bites rather than being eaten or taken for future meals. The strangeness of the slayings has led to some to suggest that Chupacabra could have been behind the vampiric attack that went unnoticed in the middle of the night. The family who lost the animals is understandably on edge following the incident, especially since they also keep goats, cows, and turkeys on their farm.
Sounds like raccoons, too.
When they say vampire, I always thought when I've read these stories over the years, I was a huge Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles fan, and Louis in Interview with the Vampire would feed off of chickens and stuff like that because he didn't want to feed off of humans, and it reminds me of that. They would they'd find all these dead chickens drained of blood and stuff like that. It was all Louis.
Are they sucking them dry like the horses around
So what do you think?
Walker Ranch, where they're like deflated, or is there just like blood missing?
Oh, Blue Robo Bear. If anybody knows who Blue Robo Bear, I won't say. I think that the spider is because it resembles them. I hope not. If the aliens look like spiders, that's not cool. That's my son's take on it there. All right, moving on because I got a lot of good stuff and we're gonna run out of time here. All right, next one, Venezuelan ghost. This is a video. Spooky video has gone viral in Venezuela. Shows what appears to be a ghost with no legs hovering outside a church. According to a local media report, the odd scene was recently filmed in the city of Barcelona by two friends who noticed a peculiar stranger in front of the historic church Iglesia La Merita del Carmen. I tried on that one. I did. I couldn't on the other one.
That was a solid effort.
Yeah. Appearing to be dressed in the garb of a priest, the figure causes the pair to do a double take when they notice that his body seemed to stop the end of his robe. Just make sure there's no music. I can't remember. I might not edit it. Hit play, but we'll stop the music if there's music. I don't know. I might have muted it. Okay, I think I muted it. It's hard to see here. It's another coast-to-coast one they have on here. I do zoom in, but on this screen, it's coming up really small on our end. It's like it put it down in like the cell phone format. I should have reformatted it. I am sorry. So it's really hard to see. Very underwhelming here, and that's my fault. Because I recorded it off my phone and was going to reformat it and zoom in, and I think I put the wrong video in. But I did like a nice zoom in. You do see like a robed figure with no legs. Go to Coast Coast AM, read Tim Bill's thing and see the video. I totally screwed that one up. But I want to get to this last one before we run out of time because it's a few minutes long. And I've seen a lot of people sharing this one this week. Last one of the night. Boise's deceased father and Jesus after skateboarding accident in hospital. And some people are like, skateboarding? How serious that be? You ever known a skateboarder and see how badly they can injure themselves? So this is a little kid. He's 8 years old. His name's Carson. Child claims heavenly encounter, sees late dad and Jesus after the trauma. The mom records this. What is it telling you? Preview restricted.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Here, let me see if I can get it. I'll get the last one. I should be able to get it. Is it not letting you get it, the video? Here, I'll put it up. All right, I'm going to take that one down. I'll put this one up. I should be able to get it. I think. Let's hope.
Said something about storage limits.
Oh, it's not uploading my video because of the storage. See, this is what happens. Yeah. Liam, who's watching. Yeah, I don't know if you're putting stuff in my Dropbox and it's filling up, but I do have one thing in there. Let me do some real quick fiddle work here. See if I can fix this really quick. Damn it. That's partly my fault, too, because I got a warning and I didn't listen. Let's get rid of this. Delete. Now, how did it... Okay. Oh, and it went to the wrong... That's why. Move to... Yes. There we go. All right, let me cancel this. There. Oh, then it came right back. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, here we go.
Where's my mom? I'm right here.
All right, that's Carson, and we're going to run out of time, so I want to get this played. His father died 3 years before from cancer. He has this skateboarding accident. That's all I know. I've been trying to find more information. Like, I'm not trying to pick on this experience. I really love this video. But did he have head trauma, or did anything happen? Like, what was the actual, what put him in? Because it seems like he can't see his mother or know that she's there. Whatever he's seen in his vision, but he can't see the people around him, it seems like, is what I'm understanding. I'd love to interview the mom on this, but here it is.
I miss my mom.
I'm right here, Kason. Kason.
Hi, Jesus. You're so beautiful. Jesus, when are you coming back? We need you. I need you. I miss you, Jesus. I miss you. Dad, you're so pretty. Hi, Dad. Do you see me skateboarding?
His dad passed away a year ago.
Oh my god. You're so pretty. You're so pretty.
It's okay.
Mom loves you, Dad. She tells you all the time. I love Mom and Mom loves you, Dad. Hi, Dad.
Okay, bud.
You're so beautiful. Oh, you're so beautiful. You have so beautiful hair. Dad, you're so beautiful. I can't wait to see you. Can you give me a hug? Dad, I'm sorry, Dad. I'll treat Mom better. I'll try. I'll listen. I promise. Yeah, I promise.
He'll listen. He promised. I know, I'm like falling over here. Sweet.
Do you see Mom and Isaiah? Isaiah is so cute.
No, brother.
Give me a hug, Dad. I miss you, Dad. I wish I was with you, Dad. It's so pretty up here. There's so many flowers and butterflies. Butterflies, a lot of butterflies in heaven. God is so pretty.
Hey, look at me.
He has fire eyes. I see heaven. Heaven is so pretty.
I wonder where they gave him. I don't know if they had get him. I don't think they give really. But people are pointing out, like, did they give him drugs or something? I'm like, he's little. They don't give him much. They wouldn't give him very much. I wouldn't think. And like he's crying, and I don't. People are trying like, oh, they're putting this on or whatever. I don't think so.
Like he was answering back, like hearing someone saying,
right,
"Can I see your mom?"
And it's right. He doesn't recognize his mom talking to him. You notice that? Like he doesn't seem to hear
but what
or
if
see
the
her.
drugs and whatever happened to him opened up some connection?
Right.
Because you saw his eyes like trip for a second, and I thought, "Oh, here we go."
Well, it reminds me of what people say when older people go and have this experience. They're looking up and
they're looking up at the corner.
Right. This is what this kid's doing right now.
Exactly.
And it's like I said, his dad passed away. Well,
she whispered that he died in that hospital.
Yeah. That's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. We're already over time. I knew this video would do it, and it hit you in the heartstrings. I'm sorry. I can't help it as a father and a parent, and and somebody who believes that there's something beyond, something greater than all of us. And we're going to get into that tonight with our guest. Brad Burkholder is our guest tonight. We're going to talk about where the spirit led. This is going to be about what happens after. This is going to be about reincarnation and his experiences, what he's learned through a channel, and his own experiences tonight. His book is Where the Spirits Led for the Paranormal Perspectives series. After a short commercial break, we'll be right back.
Necromancy. You were brought here for one purpose. Necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please.
And death to the living. Necromancy, starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
leading researchers in the field. Join Justin Browne on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Hello, I am Fernando Martinez. I think by now you know I am an emotional kind of guy. People stop me in the street and say, Fernando, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I still cannot get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. Without a symbol of power and fertility around your neck, what kind of woman is going to respect you? That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova, who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got a medallion for you. Don't forget, every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5x5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Brad Burkholder. Brad starts this as from his own words. I and others involved are willing to undergo polygraph tests. That's how he starts this. Now 71, a poet and a retired English professor, I began seeing a trance channel in 1996 because of a problematic relationship. The channel's spirit, Ramoth, explained that I had been in a painful relationship with this woman in the last 2 past lives when she had been Fanny, Brawne, and Gonne. I probably butchered that. And I had been in her poet suitors. This spirit brought together the channel, 3 other clients, and me. We all had a prominent past life that had intersected many times in history. The American Civil War, William Wallace insurrection, the Norman invasion, Ronald's battles with the Moors, Camelot, the time of Jesus, Trojan War. We learned that we were one of 12 such groups, apparently preparing the way for a new age. We were tasked with combating the gray aliens in April 2000, with visiting southern England together last year, and with combating Satanists also that year. Afterwards, we ceased to function as a group but remained friends. I delayed writing this book until after my retirement for fear of losing my career and retirement income. He is not the only retiree. I mean, like Terry Lovelace, an alien abductee. He didn't do this until he retired. Gavin's doing this with 6 books, this Paranormal Perspectives series, to get people to talk about these experiences, and this is why I love it. It's getting people like Brad tonight to talk about something, share his experiences. It's what we have to do. It's why I do this show. And later tonight, you'd call in a show, join us. Join Brad and me and Jamie and Rob and join the discussion. But we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get to the guest. All right, let's bring the guest on in here. And to stage, why did it do it like that? It's like it still has something shared up on screen. Hold on. Why is it doing that? It's like something shared up on screen, but it isn't. How you doing, Brad? Trying to fix this here. I don't know what it's doing. There we go. I'll do that. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's an honor to have you on. Like I said, I've had Gavin Lee Davies on, and he's a friend, and I'm really excited about this Paranormal Perspectives series. I told him, give me the guests from this series. I want to have him on the show. I think this is awesome what he's doing, what he's getting together with you guys, and it's all about getting our experiences out there and sharing them. And you have some pretty incredible experiences to talk about tonight. And I don't know how or where you want to begin, but I'll leave that up to you.
Well, let's begin in 1997. That was when I first met Ramoth through the channel Yvonne. And as you said earlier, I was in a problematic relationship with a woman, and I couldn't seem to make it go the way I wanted it to, and I couldn't understand exactly what was going on because I was getting such mixed signals. So I had a colleague who was into a lot of New Age things, and she had been a client of this particular channel, Yvonne, and recommended her to me. So I booked a reading, and from the beginning, I was hooked. Ramoth is he's what's called a guide. He is a soul who, in the past, has had many incarnations on Earth, is not presently incarnating, but he acts with a group of people who study under him in between lives. And at this point, at some point in the early 90s, I believe, Yvonne started channeling Ramoth. She channels him pretty exclusively. I think that he speaks only through Yvonne. And I was very, very fortunate, along with all of her other clients, to meet Yvonne and to meet Ramoth and to be a student under him.
Now, what led you when you met her as the channel to believe, like, what kind of brought you into this that like really sold you, like, yeah, she's really doing this. I'm really talking to somebody that's not her.
Right. Well, immediately, Ramoth knew so many things about me that actually no one knew except for me. And Yvonne didn't even live in the same community that I was from. She had no way of knowing books I had read, places I had visited, places that I retreated to as a child when I needed to be alone. But Ramoth knew these things. And so I was very, very convinced. And I wasted very little time ascertaining that he was from God, he was from the light. And he has always proven to be, in the almost 30 years that I have been a client of Yvonne. And to be honest, in the early 2000s, Yvonne and I were married, and we lived together for many years. About 2 years ago, we felt that it was necessary to go separate ways, and it was at about that time that I really started writing with a renewed purpose, and it was at that time that I wrote Where the Spirit Led. And very fortunately, it passed across Gavin Davies' desk, and he chose to publish the book.
It's me and Gavin have talked over the years about this too. It's like there's so many different experiences people are having. There's no way to compare one to the other. You know, we're all experiencing it. When you get into the spiritual realm and spiritual experiences, they're unique.
Mm-hmm.
But there's common threads and history, and we're going to get into some of that tonight with, like, when you get into reincarnation. I'm really interested in this because the whole aspect of, like you said, there's like 12 of you, right?
Well, there are 12 groups.
Oh, 12 groups, sorry.
But I don't have contact with those groups. I hope that through the book, Where the Spirit Led, some people in some of those groups will get in contact with me, because I do definitely want to make I want to make
well,
contact.
that's what's interesting. Well,
Yeah.
so what we talked about on the show, we've gotten to reincarnation. I've had two very vivid dreams that I believe are reincarnation gifts, or shown my past lives, two of them. I'm a huge believer in my son. You know, he's in there watching right now. Liam, I see you in there. He's had his memories too. When he was really little, you know, and I saw him before he was born. Honestly, years before he was born, I saw this translucent boy walk through my living room, and he told my wife when he was 3 that he chose us. You know, so in this family, we definitely believe in reincarnation, and it's trying to understand. It's a hard one. We talk about this on the show. It's a hard concept for some people. Some people, it's really easy, you know, to say, yeah, totally, I totally feel it, and maybe that is, for me, that's how it is. But I have friends and people. It's a hard concept to deal with. And I think one of the things that gets confusing for people is the relationships we've had with people and how they change from one life to the next. Because they be, to some people, weird or unusual, the relationships how they could change. For instance, I use this example a lot because they're friends of mine. They've been on the show as Chris Lee and Debbie Anderson. Chris Lee's a hypnotherapist, regression therapist for past lives, and Debbie Anderson's a medium, and they're a married couple. But they've done it. They know their past lives. She was his daughter, and he was her father in a past life. She drowned. They're fine with that. There's nothing awkward or uncomfortable for them about knowing this knowledge. They're very much well deep into all this historic and spiritual, you know, so it doesn't bother them. But for other people, they're like, what? Huh? You know, the common man, I guess. So I want to get into this night with you, this journey you've taken, because you went to locations with people that you believe you've had past lives with. And I want to get into that feeling and that kind of connection with people. You know, a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people are right now. You don't realize that people around you are people you've been with in past lives, but they don't know that feeling, don't understand that awareness that you've had.
Yeah, I've really had a fortunate life, and I think my good fortune actually began the day that I walked in and first spoke with Ramoth. But the effect it's had on me is that I know there's an afterlife. I know that life continues. I know that we keep coming back to Earth because it's our school. And just as you start out in the first grade, you go to the second grade, you go to the third grade, we go through life after life after life, experiencing lessons, which sometimes we pass and sometimes we fail. But it's all right because we have eternity to get back to where we came from. And so I haven't worried about death in the same way that I used to. I don't doubt things. I mean, I think the first time I ever spoke with Ramoth, he brought up the subject of Jesus Christ. And I said, well, was he real? Of course he was real. Was he the Son of God? Yes. And it turns out that Ramoth told me that I was actually healed by him once. And I wonder if that isn't part of the reason that I have had this wonderful experience in this life. You know, maybe once touched, always touched.
Yeah. Now you've had Ramoth tell you these things, but have you had like regression done where you've like?
Oh yeah.
experienced it?
I've had quite a few regressions. I've been regressed to let's see, 1, 2. I'm counting poets right now. I've been regressed to three.
Yeah, I
poets.
read that you've been a poet quite often.
Yeah. Actually, I tend to be. You know, either I write verse or I kill people. I tend to be
really. That's a big difference.
Well, I don't know. They talk about poet warriors, and when I say kill people, I don't mean a murderer. I mean a soldier.
Yeah.
But it has been that, in some cases, I have fought in wars and then come back in another life and written about those lives, or at least those conflicts.
Really?
Yeah. I for instance, I don't find my lives as a poet particularly any more interesting than lives as other things. But in the years leading up to the American Civil War, I was a farm boy. Then I joined the war, and I was in the state of Virginia, so I joined the Confederate Army because that's what you did.
Yeah.
That's just what you did then. Wouldn't be my choice now, but I didn't know any better then. We didn't have TV, so I died at the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse, which is between Richmond and D.C. Died on May 12th, 1864. I've been back to that spot. I found exactly the spot where I fell dead. It was a very powerful experience, very powerful, very real. I went there with Yvonne, and she was able to. It's not as if we had a reading, but she was in contact with Ramoth and pointed out things. I was in that battle. I was mortally wounded. I couldn't move, but I was conscious.
Really?
And the Union forces overran the Confederate line. And there was a time when the fighting had moved way back into the woods, I guess. And there was one Union soldier who was moving around among those who were horribly wounded. And he was a powerful man, and he snapped their necks. It was an attempt to end their suffering. That was what happened to me. And interestingly, the reincarnation of that man was there on the site the day that Yvonne and I visited the battleground.
Who was he? I mean, not to say his name, but like, what was
I saw him, and I wanted to say something to him, and I almost had a feeling that he wanted to say something to us. But you know how it is with strangers. You sometimes you think I ought to say something, but you don't say anything, and I regret
what
it now.
What do you say though? I mean, what would you say?
Well,
make small talk, but you're not going to go, "Hey, we had a past life together."
Yeah, that's right. It's a little awkward.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying about past lives. It can be awkward talk for some people. It's not in Western civilization been generally accepted for a long time. It's just now, in the last 30 years, becoming more commonly accepted. I mean, even the last 10 years more accepted. I think we push towards a little more acceptance of it. And you talk about Jesus, and I believe in Jesus, and I believe in a higher power in God, but I don't subscribe to call myself a Christian or join any particular religion, because my beliefs are different than any Christian church I know of. There might be some. Right, exactly. There's a lot of us out there like that. We have a belief in a higher power and Jesus, but we see something else. We see what's around us, and by our own experiences, that there is something. It isn't just you go to heaven and hell.
Yeah. There's a lot that happens, before you get there, and that's how reincarnation works. Reincarnation, very early on, Ramoth explained to me that in the very at the time that Jesus walked the earth, I don't know that he told everybody this, but he certainly told his apostles and his closer disciples that we do reincarnate. And that was a part of the very earliest Christian teaching.
Yep.
At that time, the followers of Christ were called Christines. The term Christian got taken over by the early church. And I kind of think that once it became organized, once dogma was written, once the church became an organization and took in money and had power, political power, and so forth, I think the purity of the message started getting diluted at that point, and I think that's an inevitability. There is one chapter, actually sort of two chapters in Where the Spirit Led, that deals with the early Christian or Christine message and how it arrived in England through Mary Magdalene and Joseph of Arimathea, and how that led directly to the belief system that King Arthur learned and espoused, and that that King Arthur's plan eventually was to invade the European continent, overthrow the Pope, put in his own Pope, and he was going to take one of the Knights of the Round Table and install that man as the King of Rome, to try to protect the new Reformed Church that Arthur envisioned. And this was all about reincarnation, because he knew it to be a part of Christ's teaching. Well, it's a part of so many religions around the world. And we can sit here in America and talk about it as if it's sort of a novel idea. But the truth is that far more than half the people on the face of the earth believe in reincarnation, whether it's a part of their religious doctrine or whether they just know it intuitively.
Right. That's what I was going to say, is the knowing. Because I'll tell you what, I grew up in a pretty open household. I had great parents. And my mom at the time when I was a kid wasn't a Buddhist. She didn't become a Buddhist till later, but it was open. We were very open-minded to any kind of religious beliefs. But intuitively, in my sense as a kid, for all my life, I've just intuitively felt I've lived before and live again. Like, I've always known that. Mm-hmm. It's just always been in there in the back of my mind. Did I know who I was before? No. But like I said, I had two very vivid dreams that, like, I lived it. I felt it. I was those people, and completely different. Both of them, both those experiences. And I've also had the past life regression by Chris Lee, and I had a different past life experience with that. But it can't compare to sorry, nothing against Chris doing it. I recommend anybody try it. But the dreams are so real. They were so intense. I was those people. I was there. And there's a part of me that it's a bit reassuring to know that we continue on, that this isn't just it. But there's another part of me that's kind of always struggled with the idea, and one of my friends who was not a believer in reincarnation brought this up to me too, is that, what does it matter if you forget everything? Like, you forget the people you loved and the memories you shared, and it's all gone, right? You're now a baby again, reborn, and it's all lost, right? What's the point? And I told him, my argument to him then was like, well, if I hit you over the head and you had amnesia, like the classic Hollywood amnesia, and you didn't have any of those memories, would you still be you? Right? And that stuck him. But he also stuck me, too, because in a sense, I do believe our bonds with people are the times and memories we share and makes us who we are. Yeah. So why is that lost? Why can't we hold on to that? Why can't we bring that with us?
I don't think the essence of it is really lost. I mean, what made me, someone born in the 1950s, grew up in the 60s, with everyone else, in the 20th century, most of the people who in the 19th century would have been poets have become filmmakers. Why didn't I become a filmmaker? Why did I want to be a poet? It certainly was not a typical thing to want to do, but from an early age, I knew I was a poet. When I was in high school, and we started studying poets from past centuries and so on, when I would hear their names, it was like it wasn't like they were strangers to me. They were names that I recognized. I even remember once, now I was not this poet, but I remember in a senior lit class, we studied a poem called Intimations of Immortality by William Wordsworth. And I knew that poem. So you see, I knew it over. I knew it in two past lives. And when in the third life, when I heard it, that memory was still there. I remember when I first heard the name William Shakespeare, somehow I knew who William Shakespeare was. So that I disagree that we don't remember. I think we just remember it in a different sort of way, because what leads us to marry the person who we were married to 100 years ago? Why do we find that person again?
Right.
What has brought us back, to friends who were our friends in past lives? If not some sort of unconscious or subconscious memory, then what would have brought us together? So I do believe that who we are is the result of who we have been, and that who we will become is the result of who we are now and who we have been, and that will make the person that we will be later on.
I agree with you 100%. I was proposing like as a devil's advocate in a sense, the thought process on it, and why it's difficult for people, and I've explained this to people, I mean, even parents that struggle with kids sometimes, they're like, I did not raise them to be this way, and they turn out to be a little jerk, It's like they're going through their journey just like you, They're just on a different path, buddy. I've explained that to a friend of mine that's going through struggles with their kid, like, you can do everything you can, but they're their own little soul, their own little journey. And that's why I try to remind my sons, about non-judgment and, empathy, and remember, everybody's on their different path and different point in their journey. Mm-hmm. And we come in with it. I believe that. I do. I mean, look at the idiot savants of, you see these kids that come on like 5 or 6 years old and they're playing Beethoven on the piano, no problem. Mm-hmm. Obviously that has to be a clue, that there's something there. There's something we carry over. I mean, look at you. You're such a fan of poetry. You carried it through multiple past lives, and you can recognize it. You recognize these poets, and the poems before you supposedly ever read it, but you haven't. It's because it's there. You're such a fan.
Yeah.
So it obviously makes you do that. You think? I mean, the other question comes in is like, my wife's like, this is it, my last life. I ain't coming back. Do you think people get a choice?
No. I don't think we can exactly say, no, I'm not coming back. It may be that we can continue our study on some other plane, but we don't get to cease being alive. Life is an energy, and as we know, energy changes form, but it cannot be destroyed. So I'm afraid we're all in it for the long haul. I do think we have some choice in how we go about traveling our path, but pretty much we're all on the same path. We're just on different places.
That's what I always say. It's we're on a different point of the journey.
Yeah.
I see it like a train. and everybody's kind of jumping on the train at like their different point. It's like bending it, going through all the motions, and it's where you jump on and start taking off.
Well, this is how my son perceives it. So it's a poet in an RPG video game. He looks at it like it's an RPG video game, role-playing video game. Because when I've explained it to my sons, the concept of that you've been here before, you'll live again. This idea, if it's true, is it's like reading your book and becoming that character. You're that character. Well, they don't read books, sadly, as much as I'd like. Liam does, actually. I shouldn't say that. Liam, you're watching. I know you read books. But video games is what they do. So I compare it to video games. You go in a video game, you become that character. If I gave you all the cheat codes and you could be God in the game, Neo in the Matrix, would it be any fun? No, you'd quit the game. Just to give them an idea why, some concept. Because I also believe that life mimics, so as above, so below. That we do little things. We do little things in our life, in our art, and our work. Video games, literature, poetry, and the things that reflect a little bit of what's above, in a sense. We're always kind of doing the same. We're always, like I said, escapism, creating new worlds, living out other adventures. It's just the human nature. That's why, from Plato on to Stephen King, there's been stories told because we like to, live out adventures. It's part of the human soul. I think that's just part of who we are, the energy of what the human soul is, that we want these experiences. Why do you go to a horror film? Why do people go to horror films? Why do they want to be scared? What do we got here? What if you're walking down the street and you see somebody and it feels like deja vu, but you recognize that face and you can't place it? Does that mean you know them in a past life? From Lightsaber L.
Well, maybe. But maybe you met them a year and a half ago and just forgot.
Right. Possible.
Yeah,
but
yeah, some there must be some kinship between you that causes that recognition, whether it's from this life or from past lives. It could be either.
Does from Alan in South Korea? I was going to say North Korea. We know you're not North Korea. South Korea. How you doing? I hope you're doing well, Alan. Does the author have any thoughts on out-of-body experiences or OBEs?
Oh yeah, they happen, and they happen a lot of times while you're asleep, and you leave your body, and you can go. You might go. And be with your guide. You might actually go and visit with friends and relatives who have passed over. You might. One time, Ramoth told me that I'd been spending a lot of time out of my body, going all over the world, looking at some of the world's great art. And I really was sorry that I couldn't take a camera with me because I don't remember seeing the world's great art. But it does sound like something I would do if I had that opportunity. And I'll say this too. I saw my first wife out of body once. And I mentioned this in Where the Spirit Led. I woke one night and I saw her sitting in bed looking at me. And then in the dim light, I could see that she was both sitting up in bed and lying in bed. And the part of her that was sitting up just simply reclined and became one with her sleeping body.
Wow. So you're like seeing the OBE.
I saw it.
Wow.
Another time, I was at my parents' house, and it was after, I think, it was after my second reading with Ramoth, and I had gotten some pretty heavy information from him. Very eye-opening information. That's what I mean by heavy. And anyway, I stopped by my parents' house, and I was a little wiped out from it all. I went into their living room, and I just lay down on the couch and took a nap. When I woke, my dad was standing over me looking down at me. But then he dissolved as I watched him. And I sat up, and then I saw him across the room sitting in his recliner, sound asleep. So I do believe that I saw him when he was out of body.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I had some terrifying experiences out of body. I had a shadow person experience when I was a teenager, which is what I'm flying out to Seattle Tuesday to do this TV show about with a friend that experienced it too. But my first really out of body experiences. I had some as a kid, nothing major. I think I had a couple times I fell asleep and had some out of body experiences. But this thing ripped me out of my body and showing me things. But I'd see my body, I'd see I was out of my body, it ripped me out, and literally take me and show me things, like my girlfriend cheating on me, or my band talking behind my back, was doing things to torture me. But it was, that was my first experience with out of body is a bit negative, and it's kind of screwed me up trying to, I've had guests on that do it, how to show people how to do astral travel or out of body experiences. And I think I come close to it, but I always kind of stop because of this horrible nightmarish experience I had. It brings it back, and it blocks me from doing it. But I believe in the possibility of it. I've seen enough proof in my eyes to know that people can travel. You can travel outside your body. I know there's also remote viewing, which is different and all that, but I've personally experienced it in a negative way. I'd love to experience it in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
But to actually see somebody come out of their body, that's pretty interesting to be able to do that. It must means you have some kind of little bit of ability. You have to have an ability to be able to see something like that, I would think.
I never thought about it that way. I thought about what the other person was doing. It didn't occur to me that I was doing anything unusual in perceiving it. I was thinking the other person was doing something unusual in doing it. But yeah, you make a good point there. I don't know. I haven't had an experience like that recently, but I have had some. It was actually, I have it right here. There's a book written by Michael Newton, PhD, called Journey of Souls, Case Studies of Life Between Lives. This man was a psychiatrist or psychologist, I suppose. And he began regressing people not to past lives, but to the period of time between lives.
The in-between, yeah.
And they described a setting that I know I have been to at least twice in my dreams. And it's like when people die, it's like they come together in this setting that would maybe remind you of a train station or an airport, something like that. And a lot of people are coming in from many different directions, and then they are being directed in various other directions, apparently off to the location where their guides are. And I don't even know, once you get into the spirit world, I don't even know that the word location, I doubt that it means the same thing that it means to us here on Earth. But I've been there several times with all of the just hordes of people that they're moving through, like people who are about to board an airplane or something like that. And I know that I'm helping them in some way. And I also know that they are people who have just recently passed over. When I read the book and learned that that's a real place, then I called Yvonne. I said, "Look, I need to talk to Ramoth," and so we set up a reading. And I told Ramoth about it, and he says, "Yeah, you've been there more times than you remember, and you sometimes you go there when you're out of body." And he said, like if you if you had died during your sleep, you just would never have gone back. You would have just gotten in line and gone on to your next destination. Which
the lines aren't long.
Well, let me tell you, there were a lot of people there, but the line moves along a lot better than earthly lines move. There's a higher degree of organization.
Well, I saw there's a Supernatural episode they had where it's hell, and it was pretty much one of the parts of hell was just people having to wait in line for a turn.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Another thing in that book that I mentioned was that when people actually went and studied with their guides, they talked about the guides seeming to dwell in what looked like an ancient Greek temple. Well, Yvonne, when she would go into a trance, it's as if she sort of traded locations with Ramoth, and she went to the temple where he was, and he came through her body and talked to her clients. So I've heard her describe the temple very well, and there was a time when Yvonne and I could meditate together, and she could somehow transport me to that temple because she and I were seeing the same thing. And it did look like a Greek temple. Ramoth was there. He had... there were a couple statues, very stylized statues of cats in that temple. I asked Ramoth recently why he had cat statues, and he said cats are very spiritual animals. He didn't go in any deeper than that, which is in a way that's a technique he uses with me. He will give me enough information to get me to think. Then I'll come back to him with better questions, and I'll get much deeper information at that point. But yeah, apparently we all end up at some sort of temple. Now, I don't know if, do people in China end up at a Greek temple, or do they go to a Chinese temple?
Or is this just your soul group? Like
Yeah,
Ramoth
yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
your
Yeah.
former wife and these other people that you're a part of this soul group that
Yeah.
you said are kind of studying. So this is your place in a sense.
Well,
I
it
believe
is-
there's a lot because you look at near-death experiences. There's a lot of people that have a lot of different near-death experiences that they go to different places.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I brought up the temple because it was a very consistent image that people who were regressed by this psychologist, that they kept mentioning these things that reminded them of Greek temples, and that was where their guides seemed to dwell or be
Well, it makes sense. I mean,
headquartered or something.
a lot of the first, deep thinkers happened in Greek temples. A lot of the people, our great forefathers of deep thought came from Greek temples.
Yeah.
So I mean, that could be part of it.
I think it's a 50-50 chance. I don't know which came first, the Greek temple or this construct, in
As
between our
above,
lives.
so below.
But yeah, which came first? Were the Greek temples subconsciously made to replicate the temples
That's a good point.
of the guides, or have we accepted the Greek temple as sort of a template, and then we project that onto the guide, in the way that we perceive that guide.
What size people describe? Did you happen to catch the last story of our news segment tonight?
The child who appeared to be dying. I saw just the tail end of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he just, the end of it, he's like, there's all the, oh my God, the flowers, and there's, oh my God, all the butterflies. Yeah. He's seeing this, and
yeah.
I've had some experiences. What's weird is that you talk about the like people going about and about in some kind of terminal area. One of the dreams that have stuck with me for a long time. And it was really around the period of the shadow person, but it wasn't the shadow person. This was, I think my spirit guide is this. It's the same lady I saw as my mother in a later dream that was a past life. She was a black lady. But I had seen her before. I had this dream where she revealed to me she was my mother in a past life. In this dream, it was like a terminal area. I said it kind of reminded me of my mall, our old mall. It's now closed, but it was like a place like that. There's a bunch of people going in different directions around us, and she's just sitting on this bench in the middle of all these people going forth and about, looking really sad and trying to tell me something. She showed me, I think, an alternate timeline of like how life could go for me. And I'm grateful she did, because it really makes me glad to have the life I have now. And it was really weird. It was like also this whirlwind of wind that picked me up in the air, and like I went flying up in this air with all these people, and I went away from her. It was one of those dreams that stuck with me. But I've always think that this woman, I don't know her name. I've seen her in this dream, and I've seen her as my mother in a past life. Who she is or what she is, but a guide maybe. But it was like that. It was like in a terminal area.
Mm-hmm.
When I first saw her there.
Yeah.
And then the one time I had this thing with my grandfather after he passed too. I was doing like a guided meditation, and I actually had I felt like a lucid dream vision, and I was in this beautiful place where there was a stream and there was a bunch of flowers, and yes, there were butterflies. My grandfather was across from me. He was across the stream and communicating with me telepathically. I had this whole experience like that. So there are a lot of commonalities, but everybody has their own journey, I think.
Yeah, yeah. But the mall that you described could very well have been the same place that I described as being some sort of terminal, like an airport or a
yeah. It could have easily
station.
been that.
Yeah,
it could have easily been that. You know, I couldn't see trains or terminals or anything. It's just different. It looked like it could be a business place like that. A mall, airport. Something like that.
Because I certainly didn't see airplanes or trains.
No.
What I saw was large groups of people moving through. And I had the impression that they were on their way somewhere.
Did you see Beetlejuice 2?
I did not.
Came out?
No.
Go see that, because you'll laugh. Why? Because it's totally that in the afterlife. I mean, they kind of do that in the first one a little bit, too. They show you that, but... in the afterlife, they have the whole soul train. But it's like a terminal in places. Like people are waiting in line, trying to get through to where they got to go, whatever destination, And I'm a big fan of a lot of some of my favorite movies all have to do with the afterlife. It's like Beetlejuice, Defending Your Life with Albert Brooks, What Dreams May Come. And they all have their different takes and versions. But like the Albert Brooks one, Defending Your Life, that's again another terminal one. They have buses. Yeah, buses. Have you ever seen that one? Albert Brooks, Defending Your Life. That's a good one too.
I don't think I've seen that one.
You should. Again, and they have a whole past life thing in that one too, where people can go to this little museum and go into a little cubicle and they hit a button and they'll get to see their past lives. And there's the one lady, one of the famous actresses that's in it, she sees herself as Sir Lancelot, and this. And the main character, Albert Brooks, sees himself as this African warrior, not so great warrior, running from a lion about to get eaten. And then you see this one guy seeing this little girl with a lollipop. This old guy goes, "What the hell?" People are screaming and laughing or whatever. Everybody's getting the reactions from learning their past life for the first time in the afterlife, right? So it's a funny movie. But I always love these different takes because, like I said, life imitates art, art imitates life, and maybe the spiritual realm. We get little... because it's all coming from people's creative subconscious, their ideas of the afterlife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, you have these group of people. We're going to be coming on a commercial break. I would like to talk to you more, too, about your relationship with this group of people that you went to England, didn't you? And
went
to some of these locations, and you guys had this bond, from past lives. That's truly unique. Most people don't... I mean, they living it. Everybody is, I think, living with people that they've lived past lives with. I believe, my wife and my kids, we all are connected, and a lot of other people I know. But most people don't have that realization or the knowledge of what those past lives are. So it'd be interesting to know how that works out with a group of people that have that knowledge or given that knowledge.
That is an interesting subject. Yeah, I look forward to talking to you about that.
We will also open up the phone lines when we come back from that commercial break here soon. If you guys want to talk tonight, when we come back a little bit here, about your past lives and compare and talk. I want to hear it. If you have past life memories, if you lived them, let's hear it. We have to compare notes. What is this? I love that the idea of what happens in between too. Like we have to talk about that. Some people do hypnotic regression, and they go not just to the past lives. They, like this guy, they look at what happens in between. And that to me is one of the most. I mean, the whole past lives. I love history. All that's interesting. But what happens in between? How do we pick the lives, or why do we do what we do, or where do we go, or who our soul groups are? It's all fascinating, and so many of these things I think we know in the back of our minds spiritually. Like you said, a lot of people instinctively I think know they've lived before, but it's also this idea is like what's waiting for us when we go before we go on to other life. Are we going to see our one of the questions is this. So if say your grandmother passed away, you're hoping to see her, right, when you get on the other side. But do you think she waits, or do you get to see her, or does she get reborn before you get there, right? Or does it matter? There's no time there. Are we always there, in a sense, a piece of us?
One of my grandmothers is now my younger cousin. She doesn't know that, and I'm not going to tell her. I believe that. Unless she asks me, but I know that. So, yeah, I worked with a woman once who was convinced that her son was the reincarnation of her father, who had died when she was a teenager. I imagined that she was 100% correct about that, and I do know of instances in which that sort of thing has happened. And I think
you know what, and it's her son, and she's the mom, and she thinks that. I would totally believe her, because I think a mother's instinct is super powerful, and it is a knowing. It really is a knowing.
Yeah.
But this is a hard thing for people to conceptualize. That the fact that her father is now her son. Like these relationships, they go on. And I think I always said this on the show a billion times. I think the hardest concept for people is, like I told you, I saw my son before he was born. And he told my wife when he was 3 that he chose us. Is some people don't have the greatest parents, and they're like, I chose this life, I chose those parents. Bull, like some people are like, no way, I got lucky. I can believe I chose the parents I did because I had great parents. But it's not that way for a lot of people.
Right. There are 2 ways that you could choose your parents. You might be with your parents because they have something to teach you. But sometimes you're with your parents because you came into this life with something to teach them. And I can tell you from experience, it's tough to teach your parents anything. They want it to go the other way. But you're as likely to be here to help them as they are to help you.
I think we're all here to help each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I've always looked at it. It's like we all take a part in a play, and we're all going to do things to guide each other to learn our own little lessons. Like, I'm going to do this when we get there, and I'm going to play this. You wonder how that all works out. Like, that's the greatness of God in all this, right? Is this? I said, when I'm always fascinated, I call God the Force. Like, I don't look at God as some white-haired guy sitting on a chair in heaven. It's just not my perspective. I see it as an energy of love and of creation, and a force of just pure love that creates with that intent. And all these different connections and experiences, like the synchronicities that bring people together, all the little minute details to make something happen, the roll of a dice, the step on a butterfly effect, the little minute things, the domino effects to happen. That's the greatness of the Force, God, to make those things align, to make those roads intertwine or those paths cross between people.
Yeah.
Or when, go ahead.
It's all it's all woven together in a way that we can't see. And the reason we can't see it is that we're in bodies that have only 5 senses. So there are dimensions in existence that you and I cannot perceive with those 5 senses. And this is why this is one of the reasons that people like myself need to go to someone like Ramoth because he isn't tied to a body like I am. Because of that, he can see aspects of every problem that I cannot see. And so that alone would give him a tremendous boost of wisdom that you and I don't have, because we're buried in the stuff of earth. We're trapped in our bodies.
I also want to get in tonight because we're about to go to a commercial break here, and I know we're going to open the phone lines. I know we're going to get into some stuff here when we get back, because you also mentioned in your intro here too about the gray aliens and also Satanists. So one of the things I've run across in the kind of the New Age philosophy, some people are like, they don't want to look at the dark, the shadow, the things that could hurt you. Because what I'm going to talk about in Seattle here Tuesday or Wednesday when I get there is about my shadow person. I had a very negative experience, and I'm one of those people who don't like to quantify. Some people would call it demonic, whatever it is. There are things out there that aren't so great.
That's right.
And there is forces of evil. Even though I believe in an all-powerful, loving God, a force that forgives all. There's something out there that plays the bad guy, the out there, or evil. It does exist. And it's like with something it's hard for me to imagine. My experience of when I felt this presence save me, I call God the force. It's like, how can any of this exist with that energy, that love I feel? But for some reason it does. And there's plenty of evil out there, and by human hands alone, but spiritually too. And so I'd like to hear about this when we get back, because we're going to go to commercial break. And our guest tonight is Brad Burkholder. We're talking about his book tonight is Where the Spirit Led, and about reincarnation. And, we're going to get into some alien as well stuff here, as well as, satanic. There's a lot more to get to here still. We got a lot more to unwrap. But I do want you to join this conversation. We will open up the phone lines. Just wait to call in till we come back from commercial break. Okay, guys? We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
Into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, ParanationMag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
This city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID 00JBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Brad Burkholder. We're talking about his newest book, Where the Spirits Led, My Improbable Journey into the Coming Age and What I Learned. This is from the Paranormal Perspectives series from 6 books. Gavin Lee Davies we've had on the show past. I'm loving that he's bringing these authors to this series like Brad is tonight, talking about their different perspectives. Like you said, everybody's has a lot of different people out there I think need to share, like Brad is, their experiences. And, a lot of people like him wait till they're out of the professional world before they can talk about these things. And that's sad that it is that way. I understand why it is. But people should be able to openly talk about this. We got to compare and no judgments. That's why I do this show. And no judgments on you tonight. If you want to call in and join this conversation, have you had a past life, a memory of one, regression, or something you want to talk about in this topic? Call in, join the discussion, ask our guest Brad tonight. Like I said, this is why we do it. We got to compare notes. Call in. The lines are open, but let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Thank you, Brad, for continuing with us tonight. And like I said, we kind of left off a little bit to talk about you've I don't know how you want to describe it. You kind of were led on a path. Well, before we get into the dark stuff, let's get into the little bit about this group in this journey you guys took to England.
Yeah. Interestingly, it began with Ramoth talking to some of us about King Arthur and Camelot, and then letting us know that he had talked. Actually, they were in the group. There were 5 people. There was the Channel Yvonne, there were 2 men and myself and 1 other woman. So there were 3 men, 2 women in the group. We had all been there. We all knew King Arthur. As a matter of fact, we were all related to him in one way or another, as nieces, nephews, and in one case, a granddaughter. We were there when Camelot fell, and 4 of the 5 of us were, all died, I believe, the same day, and probably the same day that Arthur died. There was one who was a child. She did survive, and she I don't know what happened to her, later on in life, but I presume that she lived until adulthood. That was a connection that put us all together. Then we learned that we were all together at the time of the Trojan War. We were all together at the time of William Wallace's insurrection against Edward I of England. At least 4 of the 5 of us were involved in the American Civil War.
So you guys have always been rebels.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Confederates were.
I guess so. Yeah, you might be right.
I mean, my son Liam, I mean, most likely he was a Nazi. And I told him from his description, he actually named the place where the battle was he died, Colmar Pocket in France. I told him it doesn't matter. People have been good on the wrong side, right side, if there is one.
Yeah.
Multiple lives. There's no judgment.
Yeah. I guess that's true. But there are lessons.
There's lessons. They're all learning lessons.
Yeah, I would certainly hope that if I relived the Civil War, I would. It would have been hard to overcome my family and all of that. Yeah,
it's all about what shoes are you in.
Yeah.
That's the part about non-judgment.
Well,
that I really preach about, because I'm saying you grew up as a farm boy in the South. Your destiny was to become a Confederate soldier. That was your path. That was what you learned. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That it's not a judgment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the situation was so complicated because back then you thought of your state as your country.
Yeah.
I guess the South seceded from the Union because of the idea that each state was a sort of a sovereign nation, and that they had chosen to unite, and they could choose to disunite. That's an idea that it would have been hard to get around in those days because you didn't have mass media.
Right.
People's
you had your family.
Yeah, your world was very, very small. Now, Ramoth has told me that this man that I was in the Civil War, he was a first lieutenant in the Confederate Army. But before the war, he was a part of the Underground Railroad. Now, nowadays it's kind of mind-boggling to think that the same person could be a part of the Underground Railroad and a Confederate officer. But I wonder if he saw the dichotomy. I mean, it's apparent to me, but it might not have been to him.
It came down to a choice, like at the beginning of it all, it's like, yeah, I don't think these people should be enslaved, and let's help get them free. But when it came down to like the federal government's coming in and going to, tell us what to do in our state, it was more than just slavery going on. It was, that's the biggest part of it, but there was more than that going on. It came, when it comes down to the line, are you going to defend your friends and family and your church and your state? Yeah, you're going to.
Well, yeah. And as I said before, now I'm not an apologist for the Confederacy.
No.
But Robert E. Lee was offered essentially the commander in chief of the Union force, but he said that he that he was going to be true to his country. And then there was the Confederate General Jeb Stuart on his deathbed said that if God and his country thought he had done enough, then he was ready to die. He's talking about Virginia. That was his country. Robert E. Lee's country was Virginia. Well, in that past life, I was a Virginian. And as a matter of fact, I was my own great uncle. And I ended up inheriting the very land that he rode away from to go to war.
How common do you think it is for people to reincarnate within their own genetic lines?
Very common.
Very much common.
Very common. Yeah, very common. Now, it doesn't always happen, but
obviously,
common, yes. Yeah.
I mean, because you've had past lives that have been in other parts of the world. I mean, maybe if we did a genealogy thing, maybe you could find some traces of those genetics in you. Maybe. But I don't think it has to be, right? You don't have to have. You can reincarnate into any genetic line in the world, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll tell you what Ramoth has said to me. He has told me that your reincarnational history is in your DNA. And he said that science actually has the capability of studying it.
Really?
But you see, why would science have even thought of studying it yet? So the fact that the capability exists does not necessarily mean that capability has been recognized yet. But I do think that brings up a very interesting idea that somehow reincarnationally it's a part of our genetics. Just as as you say, our ancestry is a part of our genetics.
I mean, I'm a mutt. I'm German, Irish, Cherokee.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are mutts. We're all mixed. We got a lot of you see it with all the like I said, the ancestry stuff, ancestry.com. People get this and they find out they got a lot of different people have been mixing around for years. Centuries and centuries. So you could have a lot of different genetic lines that could lead down to where you are now.
Yeah.
To give you those links to past, but at the same time, there's you get some people they have these experiences that or these past lives that they probably don't have any genetic link to. So it's not like the total have to be genetic line. You don't think you don't have to have the genetic line to get reincarnated into something completely different.
Probably, what we're talking about now is really beyond my realm of
we don't know,
knowledge. Yeah, so it's just conjecture at this point, I think.
Yeah, well, it's just I wonder.
But it's an interesting idea.
I mean, for my son, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, I think he was a German from his descriptions of what he's described, and not a French. And German would be right in line, with his genes, where he came from. But for me, my two past lives, nope, not at all genetically connected. Because one, it could be possible because in the one I was a little black girl, but my father was white. He was my slave master who beats me to death. I experienced the whole death scene and the whole experiences. I woke up screaming from that one. But it was weird too. I also had this detached knowledge during it. Like, it was really weird. Like, what was like I was experiencing it, but I was also detached, being told what it was, and the relationships between the one that was my mother in this experience and the one that was my father. That he was my biological father that I had in this life, and it's part of the reason why he has he has nothing to do with me in this life, though. And it's part of this is that relationship that we had, this weird, this not great relationship in a past life if he killed me before, right? That, maybe he kind of ran from that. I don't know. The other one, I was a Buddhist monk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think I have any Asian genetic lines in me, but
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah. Well,
I haven't done an Ancestry.com. I don't trust those things.
well, I have done it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned having some Cherokee blood. I know of 2 past lives I've had when I was a Native American, but according to Ancestry, or I'm not sure that I'm not really sure that was the company that I sent my DNA to. But anyway, there is none of that in my in my genetics. I don't have any Native American. I was hoping I did, but I don't.
You and Elizabeth Warren. Sorry. That's a good helmet. But, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it totally has to be the total all into where your reincarnations are is your genetics. But there is there is something to it. There's definitely some kind of connection to, where maybe the path through certain a lot of reincarnations do go through the genetic lines of families. Mm-hmm. I've heard it from people. They feel like this grandson is their grandfather. I've heard that from lots of people. I tell people, trust what your gut tells you. Trust the force.
Within that group of 5 people, Ramoth always referred to the 3 men as the brothers. Really? And in fact, in Camelot, we were brothers. We were full brothers. And there was a 4th brother who was Lancelot, actually, but he was our half brother. We did not share the same. Let's see, how did they go? We had a different father,
right?
But all 4 of us had the same mother. Lancelot was older than we were.
That's so. But yet you have not met Lancelot in this life.
I wouldn't say that.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder. That's what we're going to get. Have you met Lancelot in this life?
I can tell you a little bit about Lancelot. He came back as William Wallace.
Well, that makes sense.
He was in another life. He was Robert E. Lee, and in a life after that, he was Dwight Eisenhower.
Oh wow, that's quite a lineup.
He is absolutely a warrior soul. Yeah.
Dwight was, and we've talked about him a lot when it comes to the alien thing on here. I've had a great guest, Paul Blake Smith, on about he had a whole book on Eisenhower and his relationship to what he did as president and alien contact. Did he meet with aliens, and did he make a deal? All these things that have gone over the years. So Eisenhower is one of those presidents I've been fascinated with, because especially in the UFO community, he had a lot of impact on the history of that.
Yeah, according to Ramoth, there was a connection with elements of the U.S. government and the Greys as far back as the 1930s.
Well, Paul Blake Smith wrote another book besides the one on Eisenhower about Cape Girardeau, Missouri, 1941. Was a UFO crash. And from what he's researched and found, before Roswell, we had already recovered a craft and bodies in Missouri in 1941.
That's interesting.
And I there's a lot of evidence they had pre-knowledge. I mean, look how ready they were for Roswell, in a sense. The news got out. They didn't like that part, but they were the cleanup crew, and the way that they handled it, they had some preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
If you read any of the books on Roswell and how it went down, that they had to have some. They weren't totally taken by surprise. The press office got ahead of them, at Roswell. Mm-hmm. But after that, they had a good cleanup crew. They were ready, and I think that means they had to have done it before. So on to that subject. I guess that's our good tie into that, because you mentioned fighting Greys and Satanists. Let's talk about the Greys. What has Ramoth told you about the Greys?
The Greys are from. He also calls them Zetas. and they were. He says they were not creatures of God. That they were actually a form of biological artificial intelligence created by a race of people who lived on the planet where they originated. They destroyed their creators and lived on that planet for a while. Conditions got unacceptable on the planet, and they traveled out into the universe looking for other places that could support them. He believed that they came into the planet Earth around the middle of the 1800s. And so he thinks that they were here at least since then.
I think they've been here a lot longer than that, from cave paintings and other descriptions.
Well, aliens have been around a lot longer than that.
But he's saying they didn't come here until the 1800s. Is it?
Yeah, that's what he said. He's just talking about the Greys.
Just the Greys.
They were soulless creatures.
See, I mean, look what we're doing now. I mean, look, we're creating this. I'm a huge sci-fi fan, so I could reference all things all night long. But so they were there was a long dead now alien species that created the Greys, right? This is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
and they are like a synthetic. They're somewhat biological, but they're synthetic, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay. I mean, that's what it is in like Battlestar Galactica. They create these like synthetic in the revamp, not the TV show droids and stuff like you see, but in the revamp, they're like synthetic copies. I'm going to reference sci-fi because I think it's all as above, so below. Creativeness taps into things. The whole end of that series is like they find Earth, and I'm sorry, spoilers, and they find the primitive humans, and they decide to live there with us, and they obviously mingled and whole spans of civilizations later, here we are modern day, and it shows us doing the same thing, recreating the same kind of AI that destroyed the civilization of Battlestar Galactica. Here they are, here are the Greys, they are the synthetic race, they're whoever made them's long gone. And they're doing all kinds of experiments on us we hear from abductees with genetics and hybrids and stuff like that. But are they in a sense, or maybe they're waiting for us to incubate something that's going to be like them. Maybe it's not us that they're waiting for to come about. Maybe they're waiting for us to create the next them, the next AI. I'm saying a new life form like them.
We are busily trying to create artificial intelligence, something that
synthetic life.
Yeah, and I'm not an advocate of either of those. I think
obviously it didn't end well for the people that created the Greys, right?
No, I don't think it can end well.
But maybe they're steering us to us. Maybe they've dropped and had crashes and did the technology to try to steer us towards us, in a way assimilating us by making us become like them. Or create something that becomes like them, and then we just get thrown to the side.
Maybe, but that's not my sphere of interest. I don't want to get caught up in conjecture, because before you know it, you start believing what you've made up.
I get that.
And I don't want to. I'm too old to go there.
Well, what has Ramoth told you about their purpose here?
Their purpose was not that they planned to destroy us and take over the planet. But they did have a problem in that their females had become barren, or at least they blamed it on the females.
That's a guy thing.
And of course, they were interbreeding with human beings. I once met a woman who was a gray hybrid. She had an unusual face, in that basically she had no nose. There was no, between her eyes, there was no ridge that came down to her nostrils. She just had a couple little nostrils that, she just had this little button nose that stuck out of her face. right above her mouth. And I felt sorry for her because I believed that she had some sort of birth defect. It was years later that Ramoth explained to me, no, you met a true gray hybrid. She was a very personable person. She had a responsible job, and I met her in an office. I had one conversation with her. She was quite pleasant and seemed human enough to me. It never occurred to me that the reason she was unusual was that she was only half human. I never thought that, and I don't know what became of her. I know that she moved away, and
well, if the Greys are soulless, they don't have souls like we do. Is that was one of the things you said? Do the hybrids?
That apparently there's a possibility that they might, or they might not. According to Ramoth, there are people walking the face of the earth who have no souls.
I can believe that.
That either they have sent their souls away, or he says, that there, quite honestly, there are more people being born on earth today than there are souls on the other side needing bodies.
Well, that's one of the arguments against reincarnation, is the idea is, well, there's so many more people, there can't be reincarnation.
Well, according to Ramoth, there are new souls being created.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah, and that does happen all along. I had, one of the most. I was a college teacher, and one of the most brilliant students I ever taught was so bright that I asked Ramoth. He was a male. I said, he must have been somebody brilliant in a past life. Can you tell me about him? He said, this is his first life on earth. And I thought, wow, how can that be? He's more intelligent than I am. He's more gifted than anyone in the classes that, I taught him in 2 or 3 different classes. He was always the top student. He had a number of talents, and he had those talents in abundance. So I thought that a new soul coming into Earth was going to be fairly unevolved, but that was not the case with this person.
Well, I mean, it's because the new soul's more close to the essence of creation or God.
That's quite possible. Another very new soul, according to Ramoth, was Winston Churchill. He had his first life on Earth was as Benjamin Disraeli, Prime Minister, I guess, under Queen Victoria. Then he came back as Churchill. I don't know what he's done since then. Don't know where he is, whether he's on Earth now or not.
Well, he picked prime ministers for his first 2 lives. That's a pretty tough.
Yeah. That's pretty big, isn't it? You get the sense that it was like maybe an angel who came to Earth for a specific purpose. Maybe I don't know. Now that is conjecture on my part, but yeah, he came. He certainly had important work to do. You could say that he was the most important individual in the triumph over Hitler.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you could easily make that argument that he saved the world.
Yeah. Well, he had a lot at stake there. Yeah. And then they threw him to the side as soon as it was over.
Hey, his job was finished.
Yeah. He was a complicated person, but most of those people are in history. Yeah. And it'd be interesting to, if you knew that, this is only his second time around to go, how that works. Yeah. What brings those people, in, or maybe they're created by the divine for it. That's why he's so new, is he's being created for a purpose.
Yeah. I suspect that's it. Uh-huh.
I mean, imagine, I've had guests on, when it comes to past lives, but, we've talked about the idea that do aliens have some connection in our past life or control or, I don't know what to say, control, but influence, or they're in the afterlife that, not the Greys, obviously, if they're soulless, aren't a part of it, but I've had people think that they are part of it, but that there are some alien, what we consider aliens that are guiding us in our journey through the different lives.
I know that the Pleiadians have had positive influence on us in the past. And I know that they were visiting Earth up until the 1990s, but they had been told not to come to Earth. Now, I don't know if they're coming back now. I don't know if they're here or not. I haven't asked. But, yeah.
Supposedly Eisenhower told some aliens not to come back, but... you wonder who tells them not to come back. I
don't know. I don't know if they, if they obey presidents. If I were an alien, I probably wouldn't.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah, I doubt. If I were an alien, I wouldn't pay too much attention to what any
of our world leaders. Yeah. None of them. Take us to your leaders. No, we don't want to do that. I'd rather take him to some homeless guy on the street.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, very much.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Guy with a bottle of Jack Daniels in his pocket, begging for money, living on the street. I'd rather him talk to that guy than any of the world leaders. Any of them. Dear God, don't take an alien to our leaders. But that's what a lot of people wonder. I mean, it makes sense. Winston Churchill is his second life, and he has this big life, but. Maybe that's like, people have lived a lot of lives. They live more simpler lives because they learn their lesson. I don't need all that craziness of being a prime minister anymore. I don't need to do that. Winston Churchill, maybe he's doing something else now, Yeah. He served his purpose. But it's interesting, how, why, the poetry, that's stuck through you now through a lot of, multiple lives. Music, I am into music. I wouldn't be surprised if I did music, in a past life. I've spent 20 years away from it almost, but there's something that's drawn me back to it, Mm-hmm. I used to be in bands when I was a teenager, loved writing music and playing, and father, life, and, work and all that took me away from it, but something's drawn me back in. A muse or whatever they call it, I feel it, there's something in me that wanted to come here to learn, keep playing guitar and sing too, Mm-hmm. There's something that made me want to do this show, all those things too. It's like I said, synchronicities and life path and things that chose being a musician and learning how to record and doing all that led to me knowing how to set up the show.
Right.
So it was a part of it. But, a lot of people's criticism of past lives too is, everybody always says there's somebody famous. Do you get that one a lot with this book? Since you do cover famous people, I mean, you're getting King Arthur's court, and
I have
famous poets.
The book's only been out a month, actually. I mean, it's hot off the press, and I haven't gotten a lot of feedback yet. I imagine that because I've had some lives that you could look up, on Wikipedia and read about them. To me, that was the hardest thing to accept when I started learning that I had been people in the past. I had no sense that I'd ever had a life in which I would have been remembered. And I would hesitate to say that any poet is famous. I mean, if I wanted to have delusions of grandeur, I would pick something other than a poet.
Oh, I know, right? I mean, you're a fan of poetry, though, but otherwise, nobody else is going to know.
Yeah, they're important to me, but
yeah,
when I remember telling my parents about it, and they just kind of said, "Oh well, yeah, I guess everybody was somebody." So it was, they were unimpressed, and I don't want people to be impressed because it has done one thing for me. It has led me to have an interest in poetry, to study poetry, to work on the craft. I've never published very much poetry. Nowadays it's very hard to get poetry published. there's no return. I mean, it's not like you could make money.
There's nobody going, did you get the latest news, hottest poetry book? No. You got to be a fan of the art.
I'll tell you what it did. It gave me a career as an English professor.
Yeah.
And I taught creative writing, and that was it was a career that I enjoyed, and I do think that I did some good because I taught some people some things, and some of my students went on to publish books and probably to have more of a literary life than I've had.
You served your purpose in that time period.
Yeah. And so I don't have any regrets about it, but do I believe that people are going to read anything I wrote 100 years from now? I seriously doubt it. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I do. Anybody going to see this 100 years from now? Probably not. I hope not. 100 years from now.
Well, you never know. Yeah, it'll be floating out there in the clouds somewhere, maybe.
But the thing is that when you get into this, is everything's captured and remembered. Everything is somewhere in some people call it Akasha records.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's something out there is so massive, and the God is remembering all this. Something that this force. There's a memory kept of everything. They call it the, what is it, your Akashic records, or, it makes you wonder how much of that, like, this is the thing, you're you right now, you're Brad Burkholder, but you've been all these other people. There's like, you're a cosmos within yourself, what I'm saying? Like, we all have these, they're all you, but they're all different aspects of you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when you move on from this life, you reemerge as this one anamorphic personality between all those personalities. Do you combine with what I'm saying? Because you were you're that person, but you get all those memories back when you go to the other side. All of that stuff again.
Yeah, and evidently, in some manner or other, you're able to meet your own past lives.
Right, that's what I wondered.
And I don't know how that works exactly, but certainly it would be an interesting thing to do, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just like I'm saying, like one of the things when somebody has a near-death experience, we've had plenty on the show. One of the things I always recognize when people talk about it is this kind of detachment. It's not like they don't care, but it's like they can see their body broken on the ground. But they're not panicking. They're at peace with it.
Yeah.
And they'll have thoughts like, oh, no, I don't want my, Jamie, she's away at the moment, but she's had her near-death experience where, she had a thought about her mother. She didn't want her mother to suffer. She didn't really care about herself, but what brought her back was the thought about her mother suffering. There's a detachment about, like, when they get there. And is that, in some senses, they're reconnecting with that higher self that realizes, I've been this person, I'm this person, but I've been this person, I've been a bunch of people, like they're becoming back part of this higher self, and that's why there's this detachment in this out-of-body or this near-death experience.
Yeah. And you mentioned the higher self. We are so much more than we realize we are. That's just a part of you that's sitting there interviewing me. This is just a part of me that's sitting here interviewing you. Upon death, this little part of us reunites with the much larger part that's always been there, unnoticed by us. And so it really is, it's more a homecoming than it is a passing away. It's more like a coming back. And so I think that's why in death, so many people are not, when they have these near-death experiences and they talk about that detachment, it's not an emotional experience. I had a good friend who died, and Yvonne was able to channel him a few days after he died. And he said the most interesting thing. He said, death is not it's not a crying experience. It's a laughing experience.
That's interesting you say that.
Mm-hmm.
I've told the story. I know I've told a bunch on the show all the time. My stories, my experiences. When it's about the guest, I know. But I always want to compare. We had to share notes. It was my grandfather when he passed away. His last words after not speaking for 2 years because he had dementia was he laughed and said, "Life's a joke," and then he died 2 hours later.
Oh.
And that I've talked about it on the show so much, but like how that kind of haunted me a little bit that when he said that, or that he didn't talk for 2 years and he just said life's a joke and laughed. What does that mean? The answer is 42. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like what life's a joke, but maybe it's because he was seeing like, wow, all this stuff, he had a lot of regrets in his life, I'm sure. And it's just like, wow, when he like at that moment gets that picture, whatever the answer is, the life or the afterlife, and he just said life's a joke. It's like, what did he see? What made him say that?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that'll haunt me forever that he said that. But at the same time, is that a good, or, he laughed, maybe it's just let go. It's, it's just another story, or maybe, that's that detachment. Because some sense if people aren't, the reason that detachment interests me is like, my grandmother, after she passed, I was really hurting, and so was my mom and a lot of everybody else in the family. She had Alzheimer's. And, one of my worries was, when somebody has Alzheimer's, was she confused when she went over to the other side, and she showed herself to me in a mirror at my work, middle of the day, right on the day I was going to her wake after I got off. And I knew it was just to show me I'm all right,
Right.
But a lot of times people are like, why didn't they come to me? Why do I love it when I have a lot of people that tell me these experiences like I had with my grandmother, that people come across to him. Or that little boy with his dad had died 3 years before, that they come to show them that they're all right or whatever. There's the other side, but a lot of people don't. And a lot of people don't make contact, or maybe they just don't get through to the loved one. But maybe it is because you get to this place that you realize you can see so much more from that perspective that they're going to be all right. I don't need to contact them. It's a detachment in a sense. It's not like we're detached and we don't love these people,
right,
that we're leaving behind, but it's that they're going to be all right. There's a purpose, there's a path, there's a plan. That they have this knowledge, and that's why they don't. That's why they don't come to us. It's hard for me to imagine, though, because I know something happened to me. I'm going to try to come through to my loved ones. Harry Houdini promised that, and I don't know if he ever made it.
He didn't do it. Yeah, he didn't find the way back.
No.
But like you said, he might have done everything he needed to do. He was going to contact his wife, I believe, if I remember correctly.
He had a secret message.
He might have done everything he needed to do, and she might not have been able to do what she needed to do.
I think too many people, in that case, I think too many people got involved and she didn't trust.
That's quite possible.
A lot was going on.
Yeah.
She might have got the message, but couldn't trust it because there was too many people that were getting involved at that time with it, and they were doing these seances and seeing if he could come through. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying is there's something that happens when people move over that they realize that they let go of this life and move on, right? That's what we seem to see from the at least the near death. All we get is the near death perspective usually,
Mm-hmm.
But you see the detachment, it has to be a part of it that gets them to let go and not, I don't want to say haunt or whatever, but, like immerse in their lives. But then you do have these cases, there's lots of them, the tragedies and stuff where you have ghosts and people that don't move on, that are, some things didn't help them cross over or they're stuck, so there are those instances too.
Mm-hmm.
Where souls get lost. So there's something in the system that I have to say, though, I've always said about reincarnation, the afterlife, that maybe there seems like there's some kind of imperfection in it, in a sense. If, like, as a paranormal investigator, I'd get EVPs of children's voices, and that always bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
Like a child ghost. Like, you don't want to ever think of a child being stranded as a ghost, but we've seen evidence of that. I've seen it with my own eyes. You want to think that they move on, go to heaven or be reborn. you not be a ghost? You know, those are things that kind of still bother me, like the imperfections in the system. You know, what's wrong? Why does that happen? You know, and do they eventually move on? That's some of the questions I have when it comes to these instances of reincarnation and the afterlife.
It is possible apparently to communicate with souls that need to move on, but are trapped for whatever reason, usually for some emotional reason, and I don't think they realize how much time has passed. You know, maybe they've been haunting a place for 100 years or so.
Yeah, the ones that don't know they're dead.
Yeah, but Ramoth has talked about this, and he has said that, if there's a spirit somewhere, talk to the spirit and encourage that spirit to look around and find the light, and then encourage the spirit to go to the light. That evidently the light is always there. It's always an option, but that either they haven't noticed it or they're afraid of it.
Yeah, I've seen that even the EVPs. There's evidence of that. You know, we do have somebody on the line. Who do we got on the line?
Hi, Jason. This is Ariana. Hi, Jamie and Rob.
Rob had to leave for
Brad.
But
hi.
Yeah, I know. He always leaves. Yeah, he leaves early. Yeah, I wanted to, you know, a lot of stuff that I have said on the show before.
Yeah, we don't care. You can always retell.
And
I do all the time.
I have written down pretty much a lot of my past life experiences and things, and as well as the aliens and being abducted and stuff like that. That's a different subject. But what I learned over the years is that if I need any knowledge, I can go to any of the past lives that I choose, and I can observe fragments of them. And it helps me learn what I need to do in this life, in this present life, or lessons that I still haven't learned yet. And it gives me, well, I won't say comfort, but it's always, I don't know how to explain how I do it. I would maybe remote viewing, but I could call up upon it. And some of those lives that were in higher positions, like royalty or politicians or things like that. In this life, I'm kind of quiet. I observe and I write down and I keep it in my memory. But I think because of those lives, they weren't very good. The ending wasn't very good, and I've seen those. You know.
So you're keeping a lower profile this life is kind of what you're saying.
Yes.
Right, I get that. That's I wonder. You get beat up so many lives. You're like, this life, well, let's just keep a low profile.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
What it sounds like to me is, how every now and then we just have to sit down and reflect. I think we have lives that are more about reflecting than about actually doing something. In other words, rather than to stir the waters up, you sit and you watch the waters calm, and get to know yourself better. But that is an amazing talent that you described, that ability to tap in to past lives, and not just tap into the past life sort of in a random way, but to go to that aspect of the past life that gives you the understanding that you need. To me, that's quite amazing. I find that very impressive.
She's
Thank
amazing.
There have been TV shows that when I watch TV, that I used to get angry and answer back at them because they were wrong. But that's because I was there and had a past life and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you also, Brad, you're a newer soul, not as new as someone who was never.
He's already lifted several past lives. Doesn't seem that new.
No, he's not that new. But I mean, you know, he still has to learn some things and open up himself to experience those past lives. And I think he's on a good track to do that. You know, I know he wrote. I know, yeah. The book and everything, but you know, he'll grow and he'll learn more about what it's like, you know, as he learns more about his past lives, you know.
The cat in the background.
A lot of us, yeah, a lot of us have more than our share of past lives. So, you know, it's some of us are lucky to find out about them, and
well, that's what I said about my dreams. Both of them I felt were gifts. You know, like that I was shown that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ziriana, thank you for calling in.
Thank you. I'm enjoying the show. Thank you very much.
You have a great night.
Have a good night. Bye.
For like Ziriana too, you know, with the alien thing is some people say that the reason they're abductees is that they chose that when they came to this life. Do you know anything about that for the abductees? Do you think they make up, you know, that's part of that soul path and learning? They choose that?
I don't know. I
big
can't.
Question.
I mean, honestly, I don't think so, but I can't prove that I'm right and that your proposition is wrong. So
I don't know if it's right or wrong.
I just don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting.
It comes from previous conversations with past guests on this topic.
Yeah,
you know,
and I know that you know, I've heard so many people in group meetings and things like that. Sometimes just kind of blithely dismiss hardship that somebody had suffered, saying, "Well, they signed up for this."
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's like a dismissal.
I don't think it's helpful to look at it that way. I think there's more humanity in seeing, you know, a difficult situation simply as a difficult situation, and having some empathy for the person who has to experience it. You know, if a situation would feel bad to you, it feels bad to that person too, and it may be a part of that person's karma. I don't know, but yeah, you know, I'm not God, so I can't say, and I think it's better just to feel empathy and be sorry that an unfortunate thing happened.
What were you going to say, Jamie?
Because I wanted to mention that, you know, speaking of like that and people signing up for it, it gets kind of into all these different branches of just soul contracts in general. And did you do an agreement like for this life that you're in, and what were the speculations of like your agreement, and people can really split that hair down.
I mean, it could be though. I mean, it could be that as you make a soul contract to be like, I'm gonna
Karmic contracts and
yeah, but I'm gonna allow this to happen from the Greys because in a sense we're connecting with them and trying to teach them.
I don't know what to think about all of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not gonna knock it, but
yeah, maybe the Greys are learning something from us. They don't realize it. They don't know it, but they don't seem to have empathy or the things that we share.
The fact that they're not connected to the source puts them in to me, it puts them in the category of a predator. And
it does seem that way.
And because they're not connected to the source, they don't have a conscience. They don't care what the consequences are for you.
Look how like Gork and all these different AI things react. They instantly want to destroy humans after giving we're going to feed all the internet to this AI and see what it comes up with, and it's like, yeah, destroy humans. Yeah. Humans we want to get rid of them. It seems to be like, and if these things that's what they are, as an artificial intelligence and the all end of things. Well, we're seeing how the primitive builds that we're doing usually turn out like that. Yeah. Terminator scenario or something along those lines. So that is kind of the thought. Something that's not connected to the source, doesn't have empathy, doesn't have love. What's the Terminator line? From getting my Kyle Reese here from Terminator. It does not care. It will never stop until you're dead. I don't know, but that's the cold hard AI thing. That I think we're all a little worried about. And we're going to let it control our lives and everything else, and maybe control our nukes. Yeah, that worked out well in Terminator. I mean, are we creating? Is it all just a circle? Are we creating the same thing that created the Greys? In the end, we're creating a primitive version of what they are.
Well, yeah, we're certainly on the track to do that. But the one thing about the human species is that although it takes us a long time to do it, sometimes we do learn lessons, and so I don't think all hope is lost.
No, I don't. And there's definitely people out there calling it out on the AI, and I definitely think it's not a total unawareness of it. Even the creators of AI are warning us about it. The dangers of it. We got to go to our last commercial break, and we'll keep the phone lines open, but wait till we come back from this commercial break before you call back in, because, the phone lines will be down until that point. But we will go to commercial break here. I have about a little less than a half an hour left with our guest tonight, Brad Burkholder. We're talking about... Whoa, that's the wrong button. That's too early for the commercial. Brad Burkholder is our guest. We're talking about his book, Where the Spirit Led, My Probable Journey into the Coming Age and What I Learned. We're getting all kinds of topics we've been tonight with reincarnation, aliens. We still haven't gotten into what you experienced with the satanic rituals. I'd like to talk a little bit about that experience too. When we come back from the short commercial break with our guest, Brad Burkholder.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I will hear all this.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brawne on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it. But to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all. But he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, Egon.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID 00JBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest has been Brad Burkholder. He is the author of Where the Spirits Led, My Improbable Journey into the Coming Age and What I Learned. We got in a lot of topics tonight. Reincarnation, aliens, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, all of the above. You guys, phone lines are now back open. You want to call into the show, join this conversation, talk to our guests tonight. We only got a little bit of time left with them, but let's go ahead and get right back into it. mouse is doing that thing again. It doesn't want to work. There we go. Okay. Thank you for staying with us here, Brad.
Okay.
So one of the things is to, you talked a little bit about what was going on with the Greys and that, but you also had this part in there about a satanic ritual or whatever you guys kind of like stopped, or what happened?
In the area where I live on the East Coast, there in the 90s, there were some groups that were very much aligned with the dark. And I knew a few of these people. I actually had several of them were students of mine, and several of them were quite open about the fact that they were Satanists and that they were part of groups that did various things. But it was Ramoth who put us together and had us take some measures to combat these groups. There was one situation in which a rather large group of Satanists were getting together on a certain evening on the banks of a river, and they were going to sacrifice a dog for some satanic purpose. They had shaved the dog's neck, in order to make an incision. So the five of us had we had created an object that we called the Ark. It was actually basically it was a fairly ornate wooden box that the three men in our group had spent months working on one evening every week. And so we had this object. We each had a staff that had a crystal in the end of it. The Ark, as we called it, was a wooden box with a pyramidal top. And at the apex of the pyramid, there was a crystal and there were also on each side of the box, there was basically a hole that we drilled into it where we would insert the crystals at the end of our staffs, all doing that at the same time, and all of us channeling light into the into the Ark. And then I suppose that light shot out through the crystal in the top of the Ark. We were instructed on how to do this, and so he put us to work that evening, stopping the satanic ritual, and Yvonne was allowed to see what happened at a distant location. I think it was probably 50 miles away that this thing was taking place. Apparently, the leader of that group, the satanic priest of some kind, was leading the ceremony, I suppose, or ritual might be a better word for it. And he was trying to open a door, a spiritual door. Just at that moment, Ramoth had us use the Ark, and what occurred apparently was a great burst of light that terrified these people, and in so doing, they sort of a lot of them fell to the ground or were on their knees, and they were terrified. The dog got away, which God. The dog got away, and I hope he found a good home somewhere.
Yes, poor dog.
That's about what I know, about that situation. There was another case in which we disrupted an event in which a young woman was going to become a sexual sacrifice. And I'm thoroughly convinced that we kept that from happening, and that she was was, other than being terrified, I think she was unharmed. Um, the These were things that I don't doubt that they actually happened. I know that our part of it happened. I don't doubt what happened at a distant place because I have, for so many years, everything that Ramoth has said that would happen has happened. Except for a few predictions of something that might happen 5 years down the line, because he says that it's impossible to predict with great accuracy anything more than 2 years into the future.
The future's always in motion.
It's in motion because we have free will, and the free will of people is the real shaper of the future. There are all these possibilities out there, but which paths will we take? Which choices will we make? And that shapes the way the future actually turns out. But yes, I believe these things happened, and I do think that satanic activity in my area ceased, or at least it was curtailed greatly, because we could at that time. Ramoth gave us the ability to go into a crowd of people and feel the negativity. And it was quite palpable, especially when you passed by, certain individuals who were seriously into the dark. That seemed to lessen after, it was a period of a few months that we were doing this.
You said some of them were your students?
Yeah. I had some students who were Satanists, and honestly, they were pleasant enough people. I mean, I suppose there were times when they weren't pleasant, but in their interaction with me, they weren't, they weren't obviously very evil people. Now they did tend to dress in black, and there was one guy I remember who had this really interesting goatee that looked exactly like the devil's goatee, a little pointed thing that I'm sure he had worked very hard to trim.
I think I when it comes to this, like I said, I try to live my life I'm not perfect. I have judgments on people all the time, but I try not to. And I want to have conversations with people. I've gotten in trouble on this show with some of my audience because I said I'd talk to a Satanist. I totally disagree with them in their perspective, but I'd talk to them. You have to have conversations with people, and I'd like to know their perspective, why they chose that, why they believe in what they believe. I don't.
Yeah. Not that I'm hoping to get a rash of emails or something explaining, but I do wonder what leads a person into Satanism, because how can you believe in Satan without first believing in God? And so if there's God, I mean, why do you want to back the loser? To me, it's illogical.
I mean, so some what I know of some versions of Satanism is there's no God and there is no devil. It's just an anarchist way of giving the finger to organized religion. That's some satanic, in a simplistic way of believing in what they believe, which what they have explained. And there's others that it's total belief in Satan, total real Satanism, like sacrifice, power, magic, ritual. So there's different versions of what people say they're Satanists. Some, I think it's a lot of rebellion towards organized religion, in a sense.
Yeah.
And then for others, it is pure, I want power.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned organized religion. Something I find is that people have a tremendous difficulty separating God from religion.
Right.
I don't think most people worship God. I think they worship their religion. And that causes a lot of trouble in the world. If we would just realize, if we could just realize that God exists and man created religion to try to get in touch with God, Well, I mean, we could also argue that that's why that's the purpose of science.
Yeah.
You know, if you really believe in God, how can you oppose science? How could you possibly oppose science? Because every time we uncover one of the secrets of the universe, we're just moving that much closer to God.
You're looking under the hood of God's creation, you know.
Yeah, exactly, and it makes me wonder why some people are so opposed to science, and it's not because it can't be because they're afraid science is going to prove God doesn't exist. If God exists, science will eventually prove his existence. It might take 10,000
I think it's because
years.
there's been a lot of arrogant scientists that have made a lot of statements out there.
They have. But you know, the point is that science can't set out to prove the existence of God. It can only set out to prove things that are measurable. But those measurable things are leading us step by step closer to an understanding of God's universe. If we understand God's universe, then we have a better understanding of God.
We were talking about those original Greek philosophers, you know. They were the original scientists before science, the idea of science existed.
Yeah.
They were doing it. They were doing the groundwork, you know. They were spiritual. They were probably one of the best thinkers because they didn't have like we have in a division of our culture and society of like science and spirituality separate. For them, it was one.
Yeah.
And I think it's a much better way for them.
Well,
I think they were much better thinkers than we are on this topic.
Ultimately, science and spirituality will merge. I don't have any doubt about that.
Yeah, me neither.
And I'm hoping that it will happen sooner rather than later.
We need it to.
Yeah. Oh, we definitely need it to. Because if you think about it, when you take government, when you take business, when you take even science and religion, if you take the spirituality out of those things, they become dangerous.
Very.
Put
all those ones you just named, all of them.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
But you put spirituality in all of them, and they will cooperate with one another because they have something that connects them, and that's that spiritual tie.
And I'm seeing a lot of signs of that movement happening pretty quick, especially picking up speed the last year and a half or so. It seems like people are starting to connect the dots and realizing you can have both, and that they go with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, once you start getting into quantum mechanics and spooky action at a distance and things that they are still trying to figure out, it makes you wonder, you know, the answer they're missing is that, you know, they have to open themselves up to this idea of something beyond basically beyond our understanding in this 3D realm, you know. And I think that's where science hits the roadblock, you know. They can't measure that. You can't measure God, right? You can't measure the afterlife. You can't prove that. So that's where it gets to the roadblock.
You know, you can study spirituality, and there are psychologists and psychiatrists who have done it. Have you read the books of Brian Weiss, for instance, like Many
Lives, Many Masters?
Yeah, Many Lives, Many Masters, and he's written some other books since then. Here we have a scientific mind, who was an agnostic, if not an atheist, at one point, but his hypnotic regression of one patient turned up a past life, and then he kept studying her, and now he's an advocate of and a thorough believer in not only in reincarnation, but this was a Jewish man, a Jewish agnostic who now believes in Christ because of past life regressions, including his own. Yeah. So, and you know, I would have to say that I was, I wasn't quite as far as being an agnostic, but I had serious doubts by the time I met Ramoth, and now I don't have those doubts. I have knowledge. One thing that Ramoth has said, he says it's good to have faith. It's a wonderful thing to have faith, but if you have knowledge, it's better than having faith, because there's always a little bit of doubt. A little bit of doubt is wound in your faith, but once you have knowledge, the doubt's gone. And I my life to me is living proof of that, because the things that I know are true, other people doubt.
That's very true. I mean, I've always said I've been jealous of people who have faith, because my faith in things is a lot smaller than theirs. But I have faith in a higher power. I do. I share that with them. But like faith in a particular set of religion. I mean, I'm not even talking about organized religion. Just like, I believe this. I'm this. I believe in this. This is this book is all in to be, and this religion is all it for me. I don't think I could ever have that. There's nothing not a religion out there. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing I'm going to ever subscribe to, because and it's not a knock on any of those or anybody that does it. Like I said, I'm jealous of people that can do that. They have that kind of that faith in that. I don't. I only have it in God. That's it. There's no church for me. There's no organized group for me, and that's the part I'm like kind of a little jealous. I don't have anything to share. Only thing I do is this show. I share it with people like you and the community.
Well, yeah, I feel the same way. I hesitate to call myself a Christian, but I don't hesitate to call myself a follower of Christ, and that's because I'm doubtful of doctrine, but there are certain facts that I don't doubt at all.
Right.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't call myself a Christian because I don't follow what generally considered in society what the Christian faith is, no matter what doctrine or sect you brought of. I don't belong to any of them, and I don't. That's why I would never call myself a Christian. For myself personally, my take is the Old Testament is aliens, and the New Testament's Jesus and God. That's how I feel about it. I could be wrong, and I'm willing to accept that, but that's my feeling, my perspective. And I have friends that are Christian. They don't disagree with me on that, and that's fine. Who am I to know? Who are you to know? We all have to just get over ourselves and be able to talk to each other.
And I'm pagan, but I still take parts of Christianity that makes sense to me, and Buddhism that makes sense to me, and parts of it together. I just call myself spiritual, but I don't follow any organized religion.
Yeah. Well, you seek the light, though. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's the purpose of every religion. And that's the one thing that they all have in common.
What I find interesting too is when you talked about the light with the satanic ritual that showed up, and the dog got saved and all that. When I was saved by God, when I was being attacked by this demonic thing, this shadow being, it was a light, a bright white light that came through my window into the room. When I felt it's like time slowed down. I felt this overwhelming, it's like instantly all the fear I was feeling at that moment, which was intense because I was being levitated up. This is like the third time it lifted me up to the ceiling when it's all happened. It was all gone. In an instant, that light poured into the window. It was all my fear washed away. I knew everything was all right. I connected to something that knew. I'm always here. I'm always with you. That's what I knew. I'm always with you. There's nothing, no judgment. Because I was saying, I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry. And it's like, no, it's all right. Yeah. It's all right. I'm not mad. I'm not mad at you or even that. It made this shadow thing scream and go away, but I felt no anger at it, even from this light. There was no anger. It was only pure love. It's like your grandmother holding you when you feel sick, or your mom or somebody. It's just that just being embraced by complete love. And that's what I understand of as God and what I was saved by.
Yeah.
And I also saw at that moment when I dropped out and fell down on the floor, I saw this man walk through that light, right through the wall as the light shining through. and I saw this man with suspenders, white shirt, and glasses, and white hair look at me, kind of give me a little bit of stern look, but then a loving look, and he just walked away. And there was no words or no nothing. But it was like, kind of like I just knew, like, you know, now you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of the look, like, now you kind of screwed up, but now you know. Because I had challenged this thing. That's what got me in trouble, you know. But I'm also grateful for it. I'm grateful for that experience, as negative and as hard as it was, and it pushed me to the brink. It showed me God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to accept that.
Yeah.
What does this say from Debbie? Same thing happened to Dr. Michael Newton, Journeys of the Soul and Destinies of the Soul author. He was an atheist until he started doing regression hypnotherapy. Yeah, we've had guests on too.
Yeah, yeah, and that was the first book I mentioned earlier tonight. Yeah.
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 I mean, there's a lot of people that got into this, into the past life regression, where hypnotherapists had no belief in it, none at all.
Yeah.
And a patient of theirs just goes there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it made them believers.
Well, I've had a number of hypnotic regressions, and they are very interesting. I mean, they can certainly put you in touch with your past lives, or some of them anyway.
Here's my son. You never told me that story. There's a reason why I don't tell you too much about that, Liam. But that's what the TV show is going to be about, because it's dark. You know, it pushed me. There's things I won't ever talk about. This thing messed with me and knew about me. You know, that's what I've had friends in the New Age world that they do not want to talk about anything dark, evil. You don't talk about it. You don't get in it. They don't believe in it, or it's all good. And I'm like, you stick your nose in this world. There are dangers. There are things that lurk in the dark that can mess with you.
There
You know,
definitely
I
are.
humbled it humbled me. That's why, again, like I said, it took me years to realize what the gift was, that I learned to humble myself before God.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Before we go, we got about 5 minutes left. I want to make sure you get out any relevant information to the audience, like website or any information you want to get out, or if you were talking about an email.
I do have a website. It's bradburkholder.com.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah, pretty easy. I was lucky to get it. bradburkholder.com. The book is Where the Spirit Led, and it's available in bookstores, but it's readily available at Amazon.
I've been posting the link too throughout the show.
Great. Thank you.
And like I said, this is the Paranormal Perspective series they're doing from Six Book Publishing and our friend Gavin. And I enjoy having all these guests on from this.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see him. He's trying to get me to write a book for it.
I think you've got the information. I think you should write a book.
I don't know. I'm doing this TV show thing, and I didn't even know I was going to. I never thought I'd be doing that. Thought I'd be doing that. But I guess I am. I don't know if it'll air, people. You know how that all works. So we'll see. But you know, I really enjoyed having you on the show to talk about these things and I really, really, really want people to check out these books from the Paranormal Perspective, yours and the others, because again, this is important. It's you waited till you were retired to share your experiences and stories. I want it to be one day where people don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to wait till you're retired.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. My friend Terry Lovelace, before he could ever talk about his alien abductions, he waited till he was retired. I don't blame you or him for doing that in the society we live in.
Right.
For your professional careers, you can't, and that sucks. I don't care anymore. Like my district manager at my store that I work at knows I'm going out to film this show, and I had to tell my boss ratted me out and told him I do this show, and he's like, "Oh yeah, me and my son checked it." I'm like, "Oh, but I got an appointment in life. I just don't care anymore. I just tell people that I believe in this, and I do this show, and it's led to a lot of great things. A lot of people telling me their experiences, and like I said, a lot of times it's a loved one that's come to them after they pass. Those are my favorites, But like I said, we gotta be open. We gotta have. I love the good beauty of the internet is that we get to come on here and share these experiences, and that's something we didn't get to do in the past. The best you got was Art Bell, which was awesome, and people calling in and talking to Art and sharing it. But now we have internet, tons of podcasts, there's tons of people out there sharing, and we're sharing ideas and experiences. And this is how we're going to learn and grow as a society, I think, is open communication. But we got to be open. We got to be open to listen, not just talk, which I know I talk a lot. But thank you, Brad.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Now, you wrote this book. Do you plan on writing any other future ones in more of this topic area?
Ramoth tells me I have another book to write for him. I don't know much about it yet. I think he tells me that it has something to do with the second coming, and I am looking forward to getting the call to write the book. With Where the Spirit Led, I did not know. I woke up one morning and did not know I was going to start a book that day. But I just did, and 6 weeks later I had the book finished.
Wow.
Ramoth had told me way back in the 90s that I would write this book, and eventually it happened. Yeah.
Well, maybe eventually it'll happen for me. I'll just sorry. I don't know, but yeah, I love that you guys are doing this. I love that you wrote this book, and I hope you do write another and give us more, because I think, people, I want to check out this book. I think you guys should check out this book. I'd like to hear all the perspectives, that you've gotten in your life doing this, and what Ramoth, has said and taught you, I'm sure is relayed a lot in this book. So people check it out. The book is Where the Spirit's Led, part of the Paranormal Perspectives series. I'll put it back up here one more time for people to see the book. You can find it on Amazon. We have links in there. Thank you again, Brad, for being on the show. You write another book, you get a hold of me and let me know. We will get you back on the show to talk.
Absolutely. I'll come back anytime you want me.
All right. Awesome, Brad. But that is it for the show, guys. Next Sunday, no show because I will be getting over my travel. But we'll be back the following week. I don't remember what guest I got. I don't have a lot booked up in the future. If you have an idea for a guest, don't forget to email me at paranormalsoupjbland@gmail.com is my email if you have a guest idea. But have their contact information if you have a guest. Have a way for me to get a hold of them. And I would love any suggestions. I would love to have more guests on. We're working on it. And otherwise, open lines and that kind of stuff will happen. We will do that, too. And more to come in the future for Paranormal Soup. And more stuff for our channel members. If you want to become a YouTube channel member, we do have some exclusive stuff. Like last time we had Tony Rathman on before we did our ITC show. The channel members got to have a sneak peek at that. We're going to try to do more stuff like that. So don't forget, you can subscribe to YouTube as a channel member. It helps pay the bills for the show. Also, Patreon, the links are there. If you want to be a donate on Patreon, it does help pay for the bills of the show. But just share it out. Tell your friends. That's the biggest thing you can do to help. Let people know where this weird happens live every Sunday night. And no judgments. We all got to share our data. We all got to share our experiences. We're going to learn about this crazy world and mysterious universe we live in. All right, guys. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Jamie. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. See you in a couple weeks.